Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and again, running by the seat of the pants. I apologize for being so late to the show. Didn't even do my normal intro at this time, and I'm running a little late. Today, continuing our movie and TV to TTRPG discussion, we're going to discuss Fringe, the television show, and how we can take some of these concepts, whether we feel they are excellently um, excellently described, executed. That's the word. Excellently executed, or whether the premise wasn't really done well. And honestly, for these television and movies that movie shows that are in a science fiction realm that weren't quite up to snuff, to be honest, that's actually good for us because most people haven't seen it. And even if they have seen it, they probably forgot about it. But the television show Fringe is actually really good. And of course, many of these shows are character driven. So despite the premise, many times as these television shows have longer episodes and they go on for more seasons, it becomes extremely personal. And of course, in our tabletop role playing experience, this is exactly what happens. It becomes very personal and very the story. Instead of becoming more about the world building, starts to go into character development and how intrinsic our characters are with the story. And as each season unfolded, yeah, hey Mike, yeah, I love the first few seasons of Fringe as well. Many times, television shows fall into this. There is a perpetual um, cycle that is detrimental to television that unfortunately always impacts us, especially if the show is better than we think it is. Yeah, I know. Yes. Mike says, who doesn't love Walt as their favorite scientist? Oh, his his character was just chef's kiss in terms of like the balance of just dark and evil and comedic and funny and wow, very wild, very wild. And the actor just portrayed Walt was just excellent in portraying some of the most needing to lay the groundwork for some seriously funny and embarrassing lines to have to say in a script and to embody the words because I can't imagine what was written down. He's just a great actor. A lot of body comedy too. His little foibles and pretending like he's feeble, and then there are times when he wasn't his other version of himself in the other universe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mr. Noble's ability to be both intelligent and bumbling with food references all the time. Um, yeah, yeah. The ability to portray a character whose mind absolutely is more brilliant than everyone around him, and yet at the same time is very bumbling and confused. Now, I will say that yeah, and a cow watching TV with 3D glasses. I always wondered about the cow. It reminds me of the chicken in the Hangover movies. Like, why is there a cow here? Oh man, yeah, the unsung hero of that show. So the premise of Fringe is pretty apparent. Okay, so we have our main character Olivia, and she is tasked with heading a very small and underfunded division of, I guess it's the FBI, or it doesn't matter. It's a government agency, and it is Division. It is tasked with investigating and collecting and protecting the world from technologies on the fringe element. I would say that today, uh, an example of that would be in terms of computer hacking and nanotechnology and biotechnology and investigation into bacterial and viral infection modifications and things like that would be similar to what would be today. Back in the 80s and 90s during my era, the fear was the the pocket nuke, the backpack nuke, the ability to create an atomic or nuclear weapon that an individual could carry literally in a backpack. And that was a big fear at that time. And I would say that even today, many of the fears that we have are about taking a lot of those technologies out of the hands of major corporations and governments and putting them in the hands of average citizens who can do them in their basements. And that is also a danger. Mike says his entire cerebellum was devoured by insects. Anyone else crave chocolate milkshakes? Yes. His entire cerebrus. Yeah. Oh, man. He'd be at crime scenes like, I'm hungry. And you're just like, and you're seeing like spiders crawl out of somebody's skull or whatever. Yeah. Yes. And he'd be adamant about like, I need a milkshake now. Like, wait, what? Fringe is a great example, which proves my argument. The real villains we need are all artificers, not wizards. Yep. Yes. Well, some would argue, there was a big fan of the show would argue that technology itself isn't evil. It's how you use it. And Fringe is an example of, or the premise of Fringe, a bunch of player characters who gather together who are underfunded, small group underfunded, but still have to do very serious work, is the idea that it's only them. Them are the only ones who have the skills and capability to stop these fringe elements from using this fringe technology. And that's very often what this concept is. There are a number of television shows that were based around this, like a Warehouse 13 and Eureka, and there's about 5 or 6 others during the 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, where there were television shows based around small group of people have to go out and stop big problems. And the undercurrent, the subtext of a lot of these episodes was like, if this technology existed, who's allowed to use it? When should they be allowed to use it? Who has control over it? Should it be destroyed? Since one individual created it, how many others are doing parallel development at this time? And our main characters, of course, are almost ethically and morally challenged. Like, it might be in their hands whether this individual could use the technology to bring back a lost child, or go into another timeline and relive another world, or live in a perpetual, quantum realm where they get to relive their greatest memory or their worst fears over and over again. And mind you, you could fill the bucket of technology with anything you want, but also our main characters are often tempted to use that same technology themselves. And so when they get to see or interact with technologies that make them better, stronger, faster, remove or increase the damage that trauma does, to instantly heal or instantly kill someone or destroy something or whatever, make themselves instantly rich or powerful, to make different decisions in their life. And a lot of times the technology is presented as a giant what if. What if? And then you fill in the blank with that. And I think, and the episodic nature of it allow a lot of the television shows like Fringe, like Eureka, Warehouse 13. I know, and there's a bunch of them that are on the tip of my tongue, but the premise of the small cadre of characters going out, stopping big problems, and being tempted by using those things. I know there was one about magical cursed items. It was like Friday the 13th, but it had nothing to do with the movies. Also, they were like, this runs in the same, it's the same premise. Small group of people need to run around the world to gather back deep, dark, dangerous objects and devices and get them under control. Mike says an entire campaign could be derived from 2 groups racing to acquire these technological dangers. One group seeks to shut them down, the other seeks them to assert power. Exactly. And the question becomes, because what I love about the premise is this undercurrent of it's the the tension timer, right? That pressure, and you can always get the players to overcome their analysis paralysis if you put one, two, three other factions, and they're racing to get to that technology with whatever purpose they want, whether it's um, a religious organization that wants to destroy it, a corrupt government that wants to use it against their own people, a major corporation that wants to develop it and keep it for themselves. It doesn't matter. As long as a third party, a party outside our player characters wants it, that actually ups the ante of the players needing to race to get to the thing to stop the MacGuffin or keep the MacGuffin for themselves before our enemy has it. And that's actually a great idea. Now, another part of doing that is accepting the consequences. So if we as game masters are introducing it and our bad guys get a hold of it, you know, let the chips fall where they may. If the bad guy gets to open up wormholes to, I don't know, eldritch horrors or something, let the tentacles come out of the portal, right? If the bad guys get control of the so-called mind control satellite, let them start controlling some minds. Let the players feel the ramifications of their failure, and then let that be the next story, right? That can be the very next storyline. If they find jars of bugs that can, I don't know, alien bugs that can climb into people's ear canals and control their minds, and let there be bug people that have been body snatched or something, and use that against the player characters. And again, a lot of times these premises are very wide, and then they become character focused over time. Hey, we want to know what happens, the deep dark secrets of our main characters. We want to know what their true motivations are and such. Yeah. Mike says we could use almost any system for this, but they could seek to end or acquire things like werewolf super soldiers. Yep. Portable portals to teleport. Yep. Pet intellect devourers, mind controlled. Yeah. Mind control rock grubs, fungi that affects groups' emotions. Exactly. Ooh, my tongue. Yeah. Thank you there, N King. I really appreciate it. Yeah, fungi that affects groups, people's emotions. And listen, like you said, any system can be used for this premise. And right now, I'm on a science fiction kick, and because I think it's the unfortunate mistreated stepchild of tabletop role playing games. And some people are a little bit scared of science fiction because they feel like they have to keep track of too many features in the game rather than say something fantasy. uh with fantasy you can keep track of shields and swords, but in science fiction you have starships and instant communication and laser weapons and things like that. And so yeah, I'm a big proponent of science fiction, and using science fiction to tell some stories with it. Also, like, this is Mike Gould's chat. We're just borrowing it. Yeah, exactly. Mike says there might be a lab turning kidnapped victims into reborn flesh golem titans, etc. Yeah, the premise, of course, the other thing is what's really cool about this, and this really, pats the characters on the back, is that they are the ones who know about this fringe element, this fringe technology. So the players know a knowledge that the common people, the common person does not know. So, for example, the players may know of, black ops mercenaries that are going around, assassinating, political candidates. They may know about, flesh covered robots or fungi that are, fungi and insects infecting people's brains, and so on and so forth. All the conspiracy theories, all wrapped up, and the players are going after it, and the common population doesn't know. And the players, of course, may even be seen very often in these procedural shows as the bad guys. They're the rebels. Yep, Fringe would work well in Traveler. Hell's yes. Hell yeah. Can you imagine? Actually, Traveler's a good example. Now, the role-playing game Traveler, it's the base of Traveler is everyone has a starship, like a derelict style starship, and they owe a debt, and they're traveling the universe to repay the debt of owning this starship, and basically gaining fame and glory and skills and money for themselves and pouring it into their starship to make it better, faster, tougher, more weapons, things like that. But a background to that could be, yeah, player characters, you're on the edge because there are elements after the player characters. Maybe it's not so much a debt, but a like being hunted down. They know our hidden secret, and we need to stop them. And so, yeah, even what was the movie Jumper? The movie Jumper with the natural teleporters. There was a group in there called the Paladins, and they were trying to eliminate the teleporters because with great power, not with great power comes great responsibility. But well, that actually is true. But it was like power corrupts absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if you had the ability to go anywhere, anytime you wanted, they were trying to eliminate them. And there might be a faction trying to eliminate our player characters, putting them on their heels, as it were, basically portraying the world as if things happened before the player characters were involved in it. Also, a great way to do this, and I'm with you there with Cult of Cthulhu, like Pulp Call of Cthulhu. So normally Call of Cthulhu takes place in the heyday of Lovecraftian era, 1910s to 1930s ish. And but Pulp Call of Cthulhu is like a little more diesel punk, pushed further into the future, World War I, World War II, even to modern day, a little more pulp actiony as well. So the character's a little tougher, a little bit more heroic, have a more of a heroic bent. But yeah, you could do this with nearly any system. Another thing as well is to connect the fringe elements and fringe technologies to the player character's origins. So players may have some sorts of like enhancements, skills, modifications, curses, but punishments, all kinds of things you can list out for the player characters to give them an edge over the rest of society, whether a character has a minor psychic ability or has a cybernetic implant or can somehow, receive stomach pains when they sense, I don't know, disruptions in the quantum field or something like that. All these other kind of things. Maybe a player character like in Fringe was actually stolen from another timeline and raised in this current timeline, and they somehow don't fit quite into our world, and they've always felt different, and so on and so forth. And this is a great excuse to give our player character something, and also an excuse to give our bad guys similar, if not the same exact things as well. The End King says, I wonder about instant communication. If humanity spreads itself far enough, town criers might become important again. Ships that go from system to system, giving important news. Yeah, if you ever follow Isaac Arthur, SFIA, Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur, he talks about like, if communication travels at the speed of light, then even in our own solar system, there's light lag, right? There's communication lag. So the further we spread, the further away knowledge it takes for knowledge to get to another place. And so, yeah, I like the idea of like town crier, like postal system kind of thing to keep like a galaxy of thousands of planets aligned with each other, because knowledge would just take further and further to get from one place to another. So yeah, I think so. I mean, spread a society further away enough, and it could take hundreds of years just to find out what happened. And by the time you receive that communication, society has already changed. Yeah. Mike says proto mech pilots have implants that drive them mad over time. So a serial killer might be a dispossessed proto mech pilot. Like what's that was a plot in a series in Iron Man, in the Iron Man comics back in the mid 90s, Demon in the Bottle series. Yeah. Tony Stark was drinking heavily, far too much, and Rhodey, his best bud, put on the armor to continue the legacy, and the armor wasn't adjusted to his mind, and so it was starting to drive him insane. And then Tony Stark comes back, and then Rhodey is no longer Iron Man and such. But yeah. Yep. Mike says, back when I wrote BattleTech fiction, I added haunted technology. Cool, including a ghost that could jump from the CPU of a mech to one's personal cybernetics, adding horror from a loss of agency. I like that idea. Yeah, in Obsidian Star, the tabletop role-playing game that I'm working on to be handed out for free, there are people known as Holo Sapiens. They are basically like digital ghosts. They have no bodies. They're human neural pathways still held together in the vast tapestry that is the interwebs. And yeah. And Mike says sci-fi doesn't mean you can't add other elements. To be honest with you, there, Mike, the it's funny because we often exclude like horror and spirituality in science fiction, but in a modern context, we still keep it around. I mean, listen, all of us live somewhere where there is a building, a corner store, a lot, a warehouse, a home that no matter what happens, no matter what business or people move in, it always is emptied out. Like a small business shows up, and then for some reason it just folds in like months, and then the building burns down, and then someone else moves into it, tries to fix it up, and they turn it to a home, and the people live there for like 5 months, and then something weird happened. It got struck by lightning again. It's like there's always some weird. Heck, we've even had movies that we scratch our head and go, yeah, that movie never got off the ground. It's haunted. Some would say the development of a new Crow movie is haunted by the elements that happened in the past Crow movie. So yeah, there are real life things where people are like, yeah, old man Whitaker lives in that house and it's haunted. I mean, we still have people that are suspicious today, such as like stepping on cracks, walking under ladders, breaking mirrors, throwing salt over the shoulder, wearing the same jersey or sneaks, or putting a penny in their shoe and all that kind of stuff. Sporting elements, different people watch sports and commit to suspicious activity because they think it helps them in their luck and whatnot. So we're not as far removed from those things as we think we are. So also, the premise of fringe technology is, you could always sprinkle story seeds in and around your stories, your world, without having to act on them. And now you might want to be careful about adding too many story seeds. An example would be, maybe there's a school for young prodigies that are genius, and you just that's it. That's part of your world building. There's a school where they recruit the best and brightest from around the world and give them carte blanche of money and labs and assistants to work on whatever technology. Now, that could just be sitting in the background, or there may be a sociopathic kid that's part of this group, or a corporation that wants to hire them, or a criminal organization that kidnaps one of these individuals. Like you can world build these different elements in your world and don't activate them until you need them, such as maybe if the players are agents of this government organization, maybe there's a rival in the same government that's like, the rival uses a hammer, the players are scalpels, right? And the rival's like, yeah, we use black stealth helicopters and black ops teams, and all we do is destroy. You're in our way there, buddy. And they could be adversaries without necessarily being enemies. Also, what purpose do the players have in acquiring or shutting down the fringe technology? Do they use it for themselves, i.e., when the players increase their tactics and awareness, it's like them leveling up? Do they actually take the technology and keep using it and just build off of it, or are they warehousing it? Are they doing an Indiana Jones and putting it in a warehouse? Are they shutting it down? Are they giving it to people who are more responsible with it? Is this technology actually homebound and it got out. Yeah, flatliners, yeah. Maybe it got out, and the players are there to control the access the public has to it as much as they can. Mike says, imagine a star map with notifications like an old map from an age of sail. Here there be monsters. Looking at your star chart and having to account for space kraken. I kind of like that. Although now Obsidian's star only takes place in our own solar system. It's just called the sys or the system or the Helio system or Copernican system, but it's just the system. But yes, looking at old star charts, like, hey, who knows if there's Kraken out there, right? I mean, especially if someone is using fringe technology to use genetic modification on creating like vacuum adapted giant, I don't know, monsters, astro adapted monsters or creatures or animals or something. Who knows? Mike says, I'm remembering an old Kiefer Sutherland movie where med students intentionally put themselves into near-death experiences to examine what lies beyond, and all they did was bring ghosts back. Yep, flatliners. Yeah, they did a updated version of that, but I still think the original Kiefer Sutherland ones was a little darker, and it was really the movie's strange but cool because they were doing these experiments like in like a dark, I don't know, dirty warehouse or something. And there were some good names in that movie, Flatliners. And unfortunately, I think they brought back a lot of their own guilts and traumas with them. So yeah, Hellboy comes to mind. Tech and magic to fight monsters. Yeah, Hellboy, the BPRD. I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the group. It'd be like the Bureau of something in the comic books. Yeah, Hellboy is a comic book superhero created by artist writer Mike Mignola, who's got a very strange, but I still love his like a splatterpunk style artwork. A lot of deep shadows and ink. But yeah. BPRD, an international non-government agency and forms Bureau of Paranormal RD. I can't remember the next, and it's not even telling me in Wikipedia. Really, Wiki? Anyway, but yeah, small group of people fighting dangerous things. Now, in Obsidian Star, it's far more hard sci-fi, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that we apply fantastical elements to our technologies. But yeah, absolutely, something like that could happen. And like I said, players feel kind of cool when they're the ones that are in the know, and you can also apply lots of difficulties for those who are outside the know. If the players really need an ally or they need people on their side and things like that. Yep, Mike says so. So there's a few examples: Fringe, X-Files, BPRD. Yep, plenty of those groups where you have small group of people. They know what's going on, and they're trying to uncover secrets. And this also lends itself for people who, yeah, Men in Black for paranormal things. Yep, Men in Black. God, there's another one out there. I don't know what to search for to find them all, but the part that makes a great dramatic story for our player characters when they know things and other people don't is the idea that maybe you can make this very personal. So the players, someone in the player character's personal lives, family, friends, loved ones, spouses, kids, and things like that could be drawn into the machinations of one or more factions that are using things on the fringe technologies and psychic powers and magic and things like that. And the players have to convince, maybe the players aren't very invested in ye old village or isolated community, space habitat, or something. But if there's somebody there that they have a personal connection with, the players might be really eager to want to go and solve this issue, especially if one of their loved ones has one of those insectoid things in their brain, or is being controlled with a mind control satellite, or so on and so forth, right? Are they being abducted? Are they being recruited? Or are they falling for the bad guys' propaganda? Are they being mind controlled and forced into it? Have they done this willingly? Is that person even ahead of? Yeah, yeah. Blade actually counts. I think Men in Black counts absolutely. Especially if the players are mind wiping people on the norm. Blade, I think Blade counts. Blade in any kind of like televised paranormal. What was the show? Come on, not Paranormal Activity. The two brothers were driving around. It was like 14, 15 seasons or something. Uh, God, I can't remember the name of the show. Going live, it always gets. But there were these two brothers, the Winchester brothers. There was another one named after the Brothers Grimm, but done modern day. Supernatural, that's it. Yeah, Supernatural, driving around in a car. Yeah, stopping evil, or at least magic getting out of hand. Yep. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you. Been a while. It's been a while since you've been in the chat. It's been a while. Mike says even Constantine investigating demonic and angelic and ghostly influences. Sorry, I'm a little loopy. I had a dental appointment yesterday, and I'm a bit numb, but yeah. So apologize for that little lazy tonguish thing going on. I want to poke it with my I want to probe it with my tongue. Kyle says, I can't get up this early these days. It's all right. It's quite all right. And time has changed here in the States. So if you're overseas, you're across the pond, or on the others on the Gold Coast or something like that, a little bit odd. The Yanking says, or even Columbo replacing the supernatural with smug idiots who think they got away with it. God, I remember old episodes of Columbo, especially one with, sorry, Columbo was listen, even old episodes of Columbo, you have to do yourself a favor. The closest thing to Columbo was the show Monk, which was also the same thing as well. Like Monk was always investigating these different different occurrences, and basically solved the crime in the beginning of the show, and it was more like Columbo and Monk was like, we already know who did it. It's just the character trying to convince everybody else that they know who did it. Yeah, but I remember an episode of this. I don't know why, it just seemed funny. So Columbo shows up in a restaurant, and he talks with it's a high value restaurant, high rent restaurant, and he's questioning a guy he knows is like the murderer or whoever, right? Kidnapper or something. And he pulls a powdered jelly donut out of his pocket, no napkins or anything. And the maitre d' just looks at him like, oh, like you're just trash, because Columbo was just very, very much like stoop-shouldered, working man's kind of investigator. And the maitre d' just grabs it with a white gloved thing, like, ugh, you can't bring outside food. And the maitre d's like, what would you like? And he's like, well, I like a jelly donut. And the maitre d' comes back with a plate with a brand new jelly donut, and takes the jelly donut and just takes it and puts it in his pocket and walks out. I was just like, what the hell? He's just a great character. Just Columbo. And then very much, although Monk had more psychological issues, but yeah. But those shows where you have the person who like knows who did it. And here's another thing as well, with the ability to foreshadow dangers. The player characters may know exactly what the technology does, or they may know who took it, or whatever the case may be. The player characters may know the exact ramifications of what's going to happen, who all the who the agents are that are involved in it. Now it's just a matter of finding them, exposing them, uncovering them. Most recently, I just pre-ordered the book, the Heroine's Labyrinth, or Heroine's Labyrinth, which is a storytelling framework in opposition to or alongside the hero's journey. And part of the Heroine's Labyrinth is the idea of unmasking the Minotaur. So in the hero's journey, we go out and slay dragons, right? We're big damn heroes, and we go out and we fight a very public and very open type of villainry. But in the Heroine's Labyrinth, there's the masked Minotaur, and the Minotaur, and this is a storytelling framework. The Minotaur is a social apex predator. So, in other words, the player characters may not be able to reveal the dangers or technology to the public because their enemy may be a social apex predator, meaning like this enemy, and happens in a lot of procedurals. The enemy may be very popular or influential. They may be extremely rich, or they may be like an oligarch. They could be a politician, a corporate head, a government official. And yeah, it makes sense the PCs want to go up and punch the person in the throat. But if they do that, they're punching someone, they're throat punching the person who could not only kill their career, but put them in jail, have them assassinated, hunted down by many other elements within. They may draw the ire of all of the other factions that are moving in and around the movers and shakers in your world. That was a limiting factor in the role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade. So players may play badass vampires, but the various vampire clans had tenuous relations with each other, and the violence was kept down to a minimum, because if there was vampire on vampire violence, one could make the case that vampire is an enemy to all. And so if you did that publicly, all the other vampire clans now could team up together and take you down. And so that was a limiting factor. And in this fringe technology and fringe element type of storytelling, it could be that a social apex predator character who basically is thumbing their nose at the PC, smiling in public, maybe like, yeah, oh, I'm the bad guy. I have this technology. That. Yeah, I agree with you there, Mike. There's always like like Mike says, World of Darkness did There's Always a Bigger Fish very well. I mean, let's part of the downfall, I think, of World of Darkness. Well, the upside of World of Darkness is it damn near doubled the number of people playing role-playing games because of the embrace of storytelling and dramatics and things. A lot of goths and emos joined the TTRPG community. A lot of people who lived on the fringes of society and weren't recognized joined the TTRPG community, which really helped us grow and become stronger. But it also meant that that we got a lot of games where it devolved into like a bucket of dice, bunch of 10-sided dice. Yeah, pretty much, Yeah, and Shai says, yeah, World of Darkness did a great job of keeping PCs at a low power level. Yeah, it was a good example of like power fantasy, yet keeping them low under the thumb of the bigger and badder. It did a good job of that. It really, it embraced what it was, which I really appreciated. Mike says, picture this, Columbo like episode, but instead of Peter Falk, it's John Noble or Walt from Fringe. Yeah, I think he'd make a great television like bumbling investigator, but he's actually really brilliant kind of character because he's a good actor. Yeah, so tell me, the quantum displacement occurred when? And do you have any Count Chocula? Yes, with that. Oh, he does a great shaky hand, vibrating lip and chin thing that he does. Oh man, he was horrible he did a horrible portrayal. I mean, I love the character because his portrayal of the character in the third Lord of the Rings movie was horrible. I loved it because we hated him so much in a very short amount of time. Eating the food with his fingers, he was just really, while his son's out there being a murder killed. Yeah. Yeah. Power fantasy within context. Yep. I'm a badass vampire. Oops. I'm part of a giant vampire of world. And I'm not as powerful as I think I am. Oops. Yeah, it did a good job of that. Which also, um, using this concept of fringe, could allow our player characters who may have one or two gifts. The players are gifted with sight along with other things, right? They know the inner workings behind the scenes. They get to see the machinations and technologies being used. But it also could open up some things where it's like the PCs might be exposed to the whole body snatcher thing. Like, what? You mean there's aliens amongst us? You mean there are cyborgs covered in human flesh that I don't know about? You mean there literally are people who are infested with those insects that have burrowed in people's ears? Is not just one, but a whole clan of them? You mean there's thousands of them deeply embedded in our government and religious organizations and corporations? What? So yeah, that could very, very well open up a can of worms that add to some really cool storytelling techniques, especially if one or more of the player characters themselves have been infected, or a player character realizes they get shot and they realize that they are one of those cyborgs and they didn't know it, or that there's a computer chip in their brain that's affecting them or something like that. Like, you can make it very personal. Maybe that Black Ops team that keeps hunting one of the player characters, they're like, you used to be one of us. And the PC's like, I don't remember that. And they're like, yeah, that's why there's a chip in your head, is to make sure that every time you go on a mission, you forget it. And they're like, what mission? Oh, I get it. Ha ha ha. Right. So yeah, I mean, bringing it full circle. So guys, thank you so much. I know the show aired late. I had some streaming issues. Sorry about that. We will continue this tomorrow. Let me, as a matter of fact, I might even show you. You know what? I think I will share this out. So I try as much as I can. I try to make thumbnails, early and often, if I can. And so let me show you some of these. So here's some thumbnails that I've worked on. Hey, Kitty, that's my producer. And I think I'm going to change some of these. You can see my little cursor moving around. So we have this television show called Flash Forward. During the, I don't know, maybe late 90s, early 2000s, 2010-ish, after the heyday, or during the heyday of Lost, hey guys, there was this propensity to make these longer form television shows. And some of the television shows were a little bit ridiculous. Some of them had strange premises, which we're going to borrow from heavily as well. And along with Fringe, because here we are way over here at Fringe. We also have Debris, which was another show. One season. It only needed one season, honestly. But we have Debris. There was a show called Salvation, and there's another one called Flash Forward. So yeah, she's hungry for attention. That's what it is. So yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind, if you would like to find out what these shows are about and such, please take a look at them. And we're going to discuss what the premise is of the television shows, how we can borrow from them for our own tabletop role-playing experiences, and use them for our own creativity. Kind of cool to use it for that fact. Mike says a Fringe type campaign might start with a group of plucky investigators, but finale will have players who are possessed vampires infected with nanites. Yep, wearing cyberware, bearing lasers. Exactly. Yeah, Kylie said, have a great day. You have a great day as well. Although I know you're probably out of here already. Shai says, are we going to talk about The Prisoner? Ooh, yes, we are. Yeah, that is a what The Prisoner I think is most related here in the States to maybe, is it Twin Peaks? Picket Fence? I think it's Twin Peaks is the closest thing to that. Yeah, the End King says the cat is hungry. Got to talk about Prisoner. Um, yeah, it's now 4 a.m. for me in Arizona. Damn. I believe that's the case. It is. We are observing daylight saving time here, so we we sprung forward this Saturday night, Sunday. So yeah, yep. So yeah, absolutely. I started 15 minutes later than I wanted to, but I think it was a streaming issue. It was just red, so I rebooted it and started back up. Shai says, well, for me, the US equivalent of The Prisoner was The Prisoner because they showed all the reruns on PBS back in the 90s. Yeah, they did. And I think they attempted an Americanized version of The Prisoner, but it didn't hit the same way. Yeah. But PBS was my channel when I was growing up. Oh yeah, because they had all the great shows on it. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Yeah, we're going to talk about Debris, Salvation, Flash Forward, and the premises of those shows. But so a very Doctor Who too, the ultra low budget ones from the 60s. Now, I remember watching Doctor Who reruns on was it PBS or was like a BBC? Because PBS here in the States, at least is where the region I was in, would run BBC rerun shows like Upstairs, Downstairs, and Benny Hill, and something like that, or maybe it was a UHF channel. Anyway, they ran a lot of British shows because I saw these on television. Same thing with Monty Python as well. But I was going to do Doctor Who, but Doctor Who has such there are people who are like Doctor Who aficionados. I could never do it justice, although it does have a premise. So we could take the premise of Doctor Who, where we don't need to go into Doctor Who. Shitlord says, "Okay, I'll try to make it an hour early next time." Yeah, you're not obligated to do anything there, lords, at all. But we'll definitely do some other things. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Oh, before we get out of here, let me show you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this and show you some more elements that I'm working on in as this tabletop role-playing game is being developed. I'd like to show you guys some of the one-pagers that I'm working on, and just let you guys, you guys get to see it. So this of course is always the head page. This is the character sheet. Still working on sizing the character sheet. This is the character sheet. I increased the size of this main portion a bit, so there's more space in it. I took the bricks and lined them up on the side of the character sheet. I shrunk down the orbits, vital. I changed it from Vians to vitals. Ducats are still there, or ducats are still there. Data core, instead of 2 of them, I put 1. So I did increase the size of this so there's more writing space because it's going to be used very early and often. So this is the character sheet. Let me zoom in a little bit on the character sheet so you guys can kind of see it a little bit up close, and then I'll show you some other things that I've worked on as well. Again, this is I changed the name from Singularity System to Art and Science. It's a 2D12 system, a light die and dark die, and then a numeric value. So the art is the light and dark, and the numeric value are the 2D12. You want to roll high, not over, and you pick a method and an approach. You roll 2 dice, and you try to roll high, but not over either of the ones you picked, either your method or your approach. And then focus is kind of like I want to call like your special ability. And it will have a numeric value as well, and usually starting at 4 and will rise through character advancement. And you get to use your special focus, but you have to roll a 1d12. And if you roll above the number on your focus, you cannot use your focus again. So some characters might specialize in like battle or computer programming, like hacking or Olympics, or wrenching, basically, you know, modifying devices and things like that. So anyway, you guys already know about that. I'm also working on a Starship character sheet, which is going to basically be a parallel in parody to the player character sheet. I'm still working on it. It looks almost identical, but the words are different. Like there's different methods. Like instead of force, flex, and fulcrum, there's vector, arc, and axis. And then the approaches are different. We've got like reputation, signal, target, stealth, thrust, and maneuver as approaches to solving problems and other things like that. So yeah, a lot of stuff is different. You got to service your vehicle. There's fuel. There's trade goods that you may have, things like that, and little descriptions. But I do want to show you. This talks about the approaches and how they're described. Come on. How to roll the dice. It's a one pass. Oh, shoot. I forgot to give you. Here we go. Copy this link. Yeah. Let me put it in the chat. There we go. How was it at the dentist? It didn't go the way I wanted to, so I got to go back. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. You're fine. You're absolutely fine. Yeah, it didn't exactly go the way I wanted it to, but it's more. I want to save the tooth, so now it's more slow and steady. I thought it was going to get pulled, and I was like, yeah, pull it. And instead, they're like, we're going to work on saving it, and I'm like, thank you. I think. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so each day I try to make a new page, and that describes the rules or the world, the fluff, the crunch. You guys get what that's about. And I'm having fun putting watermarks in the background. So like this one is about baggage. Like what is baggage in the game? You guys know characters have pockets, and you fill your pockets with gear and baggage. You don't want baggage, but you do want gear in your pockets. And gear are all your positive traits. It's all the natural language. Baggage is all your negative traits, and baggage always bumps gear. And this is a one-pager on describing what baggage is and the types of baggage that are available to describe what negative thing happened to your character. And numerically, baggage happens when you roll doubles, but they don't work in your favor. So if you have a stat of 4 and 6 and you roll double 8s, not only did you fail the roll because you rolled above your whatever method or approach you were using, but you rolled doubles, and doubles is like a crit failure. You get baggage. I missed the word A. So here we have a list of the types of baggage, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. So we do have things like physical baggage, like becoming immobile, bleeding, debilitating pain, burning, being punctured, overstimulated is like blinded, deafened, something that takes away your senses. Being irradiated, having weakness, being poisoned, breathless. Breathless could be like being choked or drowning or vacuum or oxygen being sucked out of a room or something like that. Being broken and being ionized. And then we have like mental baggage, like angry, tongue-tied, fearful, sleepless, guilty, defeated, apathetic, vengeful, dysmorphic, forgetful, convinced, confused are mental baggages. And then social baggages like debt or leverage, infamy, mistrust, associations, promises, stalked, paparazzi, idolized, overheard, gossip, and exposed. And so those are, and this is a rules light system, so I didn't describe the the mechanical downside to having this baggage. And if you take a look, actually, if you take a look at the page, there's actually a backpack in the as a watermark. So I was just having fun with that one. This is really terrible. It's a damage matrix. Like how do you do loss and damage? These are convictions. It's very much like alignment. Shit, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Convictions are like alignment. You pick one. It's very self-motivated, so you don't need to follow your conviction. But if you do, you can recover. Your wipe away the baggage and recover your gear, if that makes sense, by being motivated. So, yep. And playing around with this black and white, I kind of like the black and white. This is a visual description of how pockets, gear, and baggage work. So right here, we've got 3 pockets with 3 types of gear in them. This person has Razor Tech, Spacewalking, and Vigilant as their traits, their positive traits. Their specific gear is a Razor Tech. If you suffer a loss, basically every trait you've written down in your character sheet is like a hit point, basically. So when you suffer damage, you lose some of your gear or your traits. So this person suffered a loss and they scratched out Vigilant as one of their traits. And then baggage, not only do you get rid of or strike out, like say spacewalking, but you also have in place of it something negative like irradiated. So that's how that works. And then we have ourselves languages. I'm still trying to fit it on one page, so I'm going to have to do a heavy edit on reducing each type of these languages down because it's just not working the way it is. It's not fitting on one page. It's too small a font, too tight. How to create enemies. I still haven't finished on this. So enemies, the art and science of creating NPCs. So essentially, an NPC is either going to have a light die or a dark die, and will have a numeric value. And then there's going to be a list of like light or dark, positive and negative traits. So it's just going to be one die, one number, and that's what an NPC or a bad guy is to make it easy for the game master. And then lastly, we have people. Right here, put a little watermark in the background of people. There's one in the red. I kind of like that. And then different types of people, like common people in the universe of Obsidian Star. So let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. Can you be permanently blind? Yes. To be honest with you, yes. Work call. See you there, Mike. Lecret, if I'm pronouncing your avatar correctly, name correctly. Can you be permanently blind? Yes. The answer to that is yes. It depends on if you're playing a character who is blind. That's not necessarily baggage. That's a feature of your character. If you're a character who's normally sighted and you are blinded temporarily, then that's baggage. If you're a character that's normally blinded temporarily and it becomes permanent, then you can turn your negative baggage feature into a feature for your character, if that makes sense, right? Like maybe you want to play a blind samurai type character, and a blind samurai styled character, that's a feature. That's not a negative trait. A character who's normally like a badass warrior and then gets temporarily blinded by being, I don't know, shot in the eye with a laser or something like that, then that's something else. So yeah, anyway, strange words here for citizens, but these are some strange citizens that are part and parcel of the Obsidian Star community. Oh, I forgot the Inoi plus in here we go. Plus Lloyd. Why did I spell it like that? There we go. So these are different types. These are just slang terms for some of the people that exist as common folk. The Annoy, Trigs, Sits, Sumers. We got the Drool, the Remos. We have Anons, Verts, Revels, Um, Technically, it's pronounced sickos, as in sycophants, and rehistes and neohues, and they are all like different types of people. Like the Anoi are basically, it's a combination of the words and Inui, Eloi, and annoyed all together. Um, uh, Basically, they're just people who wander around, who live on the live off of universal basic income, and they're pretty much bored and just wander around doing nothing. Trigs are basically like triggered. They're like easily triggered people. They just go into like hate-filled flame war rioting and stuff for no good reason, or they actually they find good reasons, but normally the reasons aren't very good, and they just find something else to get pissed off about. Sits are like your politically savvy individuals. Sumers are consumers. They're obsessed with basically being consumers, buying, selling, trading, spending money. That's all they think about ever. Drools are people who plug themselves into, have cables, and they plug up things into the pleasure center of their brain, and they have to, they only unplug themselves because they have to pay for it. They have to earn the right to plug themselves into these pleasure center systems and stuff like that. Remos are remote operators. Remos are probably going to be, Remos and Sits right on this list are probably the two, maybe Sumers are probably the three most common people the PCs will encounter that are going to be helpful to them. Sumers will know what the value of things are if they need to buy, sell, trade something. Sits are very politically savvy, and Remos are remote operators. They remotely operate machines and computer systems and scanners. So a player character might have a Remos as an NPC ally who may log into different places, even though they might be distant from where they are. So if the pieces are on the moon, they're like, hey, I know a guy that knows a guy that is a Remos on Mars, and for maybe 2 hours they're operating like security systems on the local starport, and then later on that exact same person is operating a excavation machine or something, digging to an aquifer on Mars or something, right? It's the same person, but they're operating different machines and robots and stuff. Anons are people who want to live anonymously, and they're not a cult. They just want to be left alone, but they have to go through more and more extremes to be just left alone. Verts are people who live in virtual realities. They're like, unlike the Drool, Verts play games, and their life is in virtual reality. So they come out of virtual reality to go back into it more often. They only come out of it to like go to the bathroom, make some tenuous human communications, but they live in virtual realities, and they play games and live in virtual worlds and things like that. Revels are hedonist. Basically it's all about partying forever. Live fast, die young. Sickos are sycophants. They basically for whatever reason, they find someone and that's infamous, famous, important, whatever, and they follow them around like puppy dogs, and so they're often called sickos or sycophants. Rehistes are like people who they are reenactors. They are like they're both combination of archaeologists, preppers, and historians and reenactors, and they want to keep alive old cultures and technologies and behaviors and artwork and things like that. Some of them literally reliving those past things, like learning how to forge by hand, katanas from Japan or something like that, and wearing those clothing and stuff. And neohues are the closest thing to player characters. They are transhumanists. They are post-human. They are they want to be the new humanity, and they try different types of technologies and behaviors and methodologies to make themselves better. So that's it. So Lacresse says, nice, because I'm blind. Yeah, Shai says, does blindness even matter in a transhuman world? Right, exactly. Anyway, Craig, thank you very much for being here. He says it sounds nice. Yeah, there are. I wanted to make. I wanted players to make characters who are the heroes of their own story, and some of the people, especially if you're talking about like post-human and transhuman technology, it's very easy for people to become the hero in their own story. So whether you're like, for example, whether today someone would be considered um, handicapped or gender fluid and all, and we have a whole bunch of like um, BS conflicts about that kind of stuff. For me in the future, like all that stuff just gets wiped away, right? So yeah, the idea is that you become the hero of your own story in whatever way you want to. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Thank you very much for letting me show these things to you. I really appreciate it. And I hope you were able to come back here, Lacrette and everybody else who's brand new or takes part in the show or tunes in or whatever. So guys, thank you very much. Have a great one. And thank you very much for spending your valuable time. I hope I can make change in your tabletop science fiction role-playing experiences. Guys, have a great one. Peace, tranquility. Out.